And we hope now to gain some insights with talking to a computer professional, an internet security expert who is well versed in these things. Hemanshu Nigam is a veteran of online security. He has over 20 years of experience in private industry, government, and law enforcement. In fact, Hemu was asked by the White House and the United Nations to provide guidance and counsel on navigating the world's most critical online protection challenges. So, Hemu, we welcome you now to America's Forum. Thanks for joining us, and let's just get right to it, because for so many of us, we use the email, we don't give it a second thought. Can you give us a little background on how email works, and specifically how government email systems are set up?
Well, I think any kind of email, when you look at it, even on your phone nowadays, if your phone shuts down or crashes, most people are not thinking, oh my God, I lost all my emails, because what happens is there's a server, whether it's Gmail, it's Microsoft Exchange, there's Yahoo, they're all hosting central servers where everything comes in and everything goes out. So when you connect and you turn on your email, if you notice, sometimes it asks for a password, or it'll say, would you like to connect, or would you like to download your emails? That means they're actually sitting somewhere other than your computer.
And that has been the big headline, as they say, well, these disks were destroyed. Suddenly people are saying, yeah, but what about the servers? So with that in mind, the IRS says these emails are gone. Is that really possible?
Well, I think one thing that's really interesting is this. Every citizen in America who has to pay taxes is asked by the IRS, no matter what, to keep things for 7 years. And yet, we're hearing about emails that are not even 4 years old that are disappearing, or within that bound, number one. Number two, if her computer did crash, which is what I'm hearing, then the reality of it is there's another system out there that was backing up everything, that was archiving older emails, and there's technical processes in place in the government that automatically do that for you. So the first place you should be looking is not in her laptop, but actually in those databases where you can do a query and say, bring me up every email belonging to this individual.
So if in fact this is gone, it is more than just her system crashing. It is more than just disks being destroyed. There would have to be, I guess, the internet equivalent of arson to somehow get in and tear it apart.
The internet equivalent of a grenade going off in the data system cage where it all is sitting.
Yeah, and it just doesn't seem to pass the smell test. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen now?
Well, I think what's going to happen is, first, people don't write emails to themselves other than when they're taking a note on something. But generally, when you're doing work, you're sending an email out, which means that every single person she communicated with, I wouldn't think it would be a reasonable story to add to it and say all their computers crashed and the archive crashed and the central server crashed. So I think what's going to happen is, at some point, magically, because of another government agency's technical experts stepping in, they were able to find things that were still relevant. And I think that's going to happen because of the pressure that's going to be put on, not just by the political community, but people in the technical community who are saying, this just doesn't make sense. There's no way that emails even work the way you're describing them.
So this is a situation where basically the government pleads incompetence, but the people, and especially internet experts and even those familiar with computers, are a step ahead saying, yeah, we don't buy that. They're available. Right. Along those lines, Hemu, my old colleague Steve Stockman, back in Congress from Texas, after the emails were lost, Congressman Stockman sends a formal letter to the IRS, actually to the NSA, the National Security Agency, asking it to hand over all its metadata on the email accounts of Lois Lerner. Tell us why he asked for the metadata.
I think what he's asking to see is who she was communicating with, who's on the 2 line, who's on the CC line, who's responding, all of those things, as opposed to just what's written inside the email, because it shows you date and time stamp. you can create, in essence, a calendar history of what was happening in this situation that we're talking about. In other words, when did it first begin? What was the second step? When were decisions made? What was some follow-up? And you can actually timeline it and visually create an understanding of what was happening. And then secondly, create, especially if you're talking about the investigative arm, create what I call a link analysis. Who was connected to whom, who was reporting to whom, who was taking directions from whom, and all of those types of things, which can be very relevant when somebody is saying to you, you know, I had nothing to do with it. I don't even know what was going on. And that way you're actually doing the opposite. You're proving
Hemu, about 30 seconds left. How long do you think it's going to take to drill down and get that metadata?
I think it's going to happen at a time when, from a political perspective, it has less impact because people aren't paying attention. I think from a timing perspective, you can do it now. So it's not that hard to do. You run a query, it pulls it back. It may take you a few days, a few weeks, but it's when you deliver it that's going to be based on other considerations.
Hemanshu Nigam, we thank you. Your background as a cybersecurity specialist at SSP Blue, the information most enlightening. We hope you'll come back and join us again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So you just heard from Hemo. They could get that information. Will they? What do you think? We'd love to have your comments. You can email them to us. There's also Twitter and Facebook. Our faces are coming back next on America's Forum.